The city lights flickered against the glass walls of the towering skyscraper, reflecting the chaos and power that pulsed through its veins. Inside that steel giant sat Elena Carter, one of the youngest and most respected CEOs in the country, a woman known for her icy confidence, sharp intelligence, and the kind of grace that made people both admire and fear her. But tonight, that power meant nothing. Her designer heels lay discarded in the corner of her penthouse, her wheelchair positioned awkwardly near the window, and her trembling hands clutched the armrests as if holding on to what little strength she had left. "Please, don't hurt me. I can't walk," she whispered through trembling lips, her voice breaking the heavy silence. The man standing before her wasn't a stranger, he was her driver, the one she trusted most to bring her home safely. But now his face was twisted with greed and desperation. "You have no idea what it's like out there," he spat, pacing near her glass table. "You have everything, Elena. You sit in your glass tower while people like me scrape for pennies." Her eyes widened, tears burning the edges of her vision. I'll help you," she stammered. "You don't have to do this," he slammed his hand against the table, silencing her with the sharp crack of glass. "You already had your chance to help," he hissed. "Now it's my turn to take what I deserve." She tried to will herself back, but the chair caught against the rug, and she froze as he took a step closer. Her heart pounded in her chest, her body trembling not just from fear but from the pain that haunted her legs, the result of an accident a year ago that left her unable to walk. That night still replayed in her mind like a cruel loop, the screeching tires, the shattering glass, the fire, and the cold, numbing realization that her life would never be the same again. She closed her eyes, praying for some miracle, anyone, anything, to save her from this nightmare. Then came the knock. A firm, steady knock on her door. "Miss Carter? You in there?" The voice was deep, calm, and familiar. Her chest heaved as she recognized it, Daniel, the building's maintenance worker. A single father who had been fixing the heating system earlier that day. He was polite, quiet, the kind of man most people overlooked, except Elena had noticed him. The way he carried himself despite his rough clothes. The way he smiled gently when he spoke about his little daughter, Emma. The driver's head snapped toward the door, cursing under his breath. "Say anything," he threatened, pulling a small knife from his pocket, "and I swear." Elena swallowed hard, her eyes darting toward the door. "I'm fine, Daniel," she called out, trying to sound calm though her voice shook. There was a pause. Then the sound of a lock turning. The door creaked open. Daniel stepped in, his brow furrowed. "You sure?" "I thought I heard," his words stopped cold as he saw the scene before him, Elena, pale and terrified. In her wheelchair, and the driver holding a knife inches from her face. Time seemed to slow. Daniel's expression hardened instantly. "Put it down," he said firmly. The driver snarled. "Stay out of this, old man. You don't know who you're dealing with." "I don't need to," Daniel replied, taking a step forward. "But I know she doesn't deserve this." The driver lunged, but Daniel was faster. In one swift motion, he grabbed the man's wrist, twisted it backward, and the knife clattered to the floor. A short scuffle followed, harsh breathing, the sound of bodies colliding, until finally, the driver was pinned against the wall, Daniel's forearm pressing against his throat. "Get out," Daniel growled. "Before I forget I'm not a cop anymore." The driver froze, eyes widening. You were? Get out." The man stumbled out of the penthouse, muttering curses under his breath, disappearing down the hallway. Silence returned, heavy and sharp. Daniel turned back toward Elena, his breathing ragged but steady. "Are you okay?" She stared at him, her lips trembling. You saved me," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. He was going to. He knelt beside her, his tone softening. "It's okay now. You're safe." For the first time in months, she let herself cry, not the restrained, corporate kind of tears, but the raw, unfiltered kind that come when someone finally stops pretending to be strong. When her sobs quieted, Daniel gently pushed her wheelchair back into position. "You should call the police," he said quietly. "I can't," she whispered. "If the press finds out that my own employee attacked me, it'll destroy everything I built. The board will panic. Investors will." He looked at her for a moment, not with judgment, but with understanding. "You don't have to explain. Just breathe." She nodded weakly. "Thank you, Daniel. I don't even know what I would have." "You would have survived," he said simply. "You've been doing that for a while, haven't you?" The words caught her off guard. No one had ever said that to her, not since the accident, not since the world decided she was either a tragedy or a liability. She looked into his eyes, and for the first time, saw something deeper, empathy, not pity. He stood up, glancing around the room. "You should get some rest. I'll check the locks before I go." But as he turned to leave, her voice stopped him. "Wait." He looked back. "Why did you help me?" she asked softly. "You could have just walked away." He hesitated for a long moment. Then he said, "Because, once, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. My daughter and I, we've been through things too. And I promised myself I wouldn't stand by if I saw someone in trouble." Elena's throat tightened. "You're a single father?" He smiled faintly. "Yeah. Emma's 6. She thinks I'm a superhero." Something in his voice, humble, honest, made her chest ache in a way she hadn't felt in years. "Thank you, Daniel," she said quietly. "Really?" He nodded, then turned to leave, but before he did, he glanced once more at her wheelchair. "You know," he said gently, "you don't have to hide behind strength all the time. It's okay to be human too." Then he left. The door clicked shut behind him, and Elena sat there, staring at the city skyline through the glass. Her reflection looked different, softer, uncertain, almost hopeful. She had spent years building walls so high no one could reach her. And yet, a man with calloused hands and tired eyes had walked right through them without even trying. The next morning, she couldn't stop thinking about him. His voice, his words, the quiet strength that seemed to hold her together when she was falling apart. Something inside her had shifted. For years she had believed no one could understand her pain, the loneliness, the pressure, the guilt of surviving when others didn't. But maybe she was wrong. Maybe, for the first time, she had met someone who truly could. Outside, Daniel walked home under the soft morning light, his jacket torn from the scuffle but his mind at ease. His small apartment was only a few blocks away, a modest place filled with drawings, laughter, and the warm scent of pancakes. When he opened the door, his daughter Emma ran to him, squealing, "Daddy." He caught her in his arms, smiling despite his exhaustion. "You're home late," she said, noticing the bruise on his arm. "Did you fight the bad guys again?" He chuckled. "Something like that." As he made her breakfast, his thoughts drifted back to Elena, the fear in her eyes, the strength hidden beneath it. He didn't know why he cared so much. Maybe because he saw something in her that reminded him of himself, broken, but still fighting to stand. And somewhere across the city, the same woman who once believed she needed no one was thinking about the single dad who'd walked into her life like a quiet storm and changed everything. Her story, their story, was just beginning. Morning sunlight spilled across the city like liquid gold, glinting off glass towers and washing away the darkness of the night before. In her penthouse office, Elena Carter stared blankly at her computer screen, the image of Daniel's steady eyes haunting her mind. The chaos from last night had faded, but the memory still pulsed inside her like a heartbeat. The board had no idea what had happened. She had cleaned up the mess, silenced the staff, and instructed security to keep it off record. On the surface, she was the same powerful CEO she had always been, sharp, poised, untouchable. But inside, something had shifted. She couldn't stop hearing his words. You don't have to hide behind strength all the time. The last time anyone had spoken to her like that was before the accident, before she lost her legs, her fiancé, and her will to trust the world. People had either pitied her or admired her success, but no one had ever looked at her and simply seen her. Her assistant knocked softly and entered. "Miss Carter, there's a man downstairs who says you told him to come." Daniel Miller?" Elena blinked. "Daniel?" Her heart stuttered. "Send him up." A few moments later, Daniel stepped into her office, wearing his usual worn-out jeans and a clean shirt that had probably seen better days. He looked different in the morning light, confident yet humble, with that quiet strength she couldn't ignore. "I hope this isn't a bad time," he said, standing awkwardly near the door. "No, it's fine," she said quickly. "Please, sit." He hesitated, then took a seat. "I wanted to thank you properly," she began, folding her hands on the desk. "Last night. I owe you more than I can say." "You don't owe me anything," he replied. "Anyone would have done the same." She smiled faintly. "That's where you're wrong. Most people wouldn't risk their life for someone they barely know." He looked down, his jaw tightening. "You'd be surprised what people will do when they've already lost everything." That line hit her like a stone. "Lost everything?" she asked softly. He nodded, eyes distant. "My wife. Car accident. 5 years ago. Emma was barely 1. Her breath caught in her throat. I'm sorry." He shrugged. "It's life. You either let the pain break you, or you learn to live with it." Elena stared at him, a man who had known loss, pain, and still found a way to smile for his daughter. She suddenly felt small. All her money, her power, her empire, it couldn't fix what she felt inside. She looked down at her wheelchair, her voice low. "I used to walk, you know. Run, even. I loved hiking. Then one night, a drunk driver hit my car. I was in the hospital for weeks. They said I was lucky to survive. I didn't feel lucky." Daniel's expression softened. "You've been carrying that alone?" She gave a bitter laugh. "Who else would understand? People only see the CEO, not the woman who cries herself to sleep because she can't stand up anymore." The silence that followed was heavy but healing. For the first time, she had spoken the truth out loud. Daniel leaned forward slightly. "You can learn to stand again. Maybe not on your legs, but in here," he said, tapping his chest. "That's where real strength starts." Her eyes welled up again, but she smiled. "You really believe that?" "I have to," he said simply. "For Emma." Something in her heart broke open, that quiet, aching part that had longed for someone to understand. Over the next few weeks, their paths began to cross more often. At first, it was coincidence. He'd fix something in her office, she'd offer him coffee. Then it became intentional. She'd call him to discuss maintenance that didn't really need fixing, just to talk. He'd bring his daughter sometimes, a bright-eyed 6-year-old with curly hair and a smile that could melt stone. Emma adored Elena instantly. "You're so pretty," she said one day, climbing onto her lap without hesitation. "Do you live up here in the clouds?" Elena laughed, really laughed, for the first time in ages. "Something like that." Daniel blushed. "Emma, don't bother Miss Carter." "It's fine," Elena interrupted gently. "She's wonderful." Days turned into weeks. Slowly, Elena's world began to change. She started leaving her office earlier, visiting Daniel and Emma at the small park near their apartment. The simplicity of their lives, laughter over ice cream, hand-drawn pictures taped to the wall, bedtime stories by candlelight when the power went out, it all felt like something she'd been missing for years. But as her heart opened, so did old wounds. One night, she received a call from her board. "Miss Carter, there's been talk," her advisor said nervously. "People are saying you've been seen spending time with a maintenance worker." "That kind of publicity. That kind of humanity," she snapped. "I'm not ashamed of it." But the gossip spread like wildfire. Headlines whispered of scandal, shareholders questioned her judgment, and reporters waited outside her office. It felt like the walls were closing in again. When Daniel heard, he came straight to her office. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't mean for this to cause trouble." "It's not your fault," she said quickly. "They just don't understand." "I think I should stay away," he said quietly. "For your sake." Her heart sank. "Daniel, please don't." He shook his head. "You've got a world to protect. I've got a daughter to raise. We come from different places." She reached out, her voice trembling. "You changed me. Don't walk away now." He looked at her, eyes filled with pain. "Sometimes love means walking away before you ruin someone's life." And then he left. Days passed. The silence between them hurt more than any scandal ever could. Elena threw herself into work, but nothing filled the emptiness he'd left behind. Every time she wheeled through the lobby, she half expected to see him fixing something, smiling up at her. But he was gone. Until one rainy night. Elena's car broke down on the highway. Her driver had quit weeks ago after the scandal, and she refused to call anyone else. The storm was merciless, wind howling, rain pounding. She was stranded, frightened, and unable to move the car herself. She tried calling for help, but no one answered. Then, through the sheets of rain, she saw headlights approaching. The truck stopped beside her. The door opened. And there he was. Daniel. He stepped out, soaked to the bone, but that same quiet strength in his eyes. "Need a hand?" he asked softly. Her voice broke. "You came." "Couldn't sleep," he said. "Something told me you'd need me." He fixed her car without hesitation, his hands moving quickly in the rain. When he finished, he opened the door for her, but she didn't move. Tears mixed with raindrops on her cheeks. "Why did you really come back?" she whispered. He met her gaze.